everyone. Can you hear me? Is this working? Looks like it could be. I hope you're all doing very well, and I apologise for the delayed start. First time we've been truly delayed. I'm really annoyed about that. I was so hoping not to have that happen, but there we are. Thank you for sticking around, and apologies for the confusion. I know there's been all sorts going on the channel, but thank you all very much for coming along, and welcome to another live stream finally with me, 320 Sim Pilot. And today we're going to head off from Reggio Calabria to Mykonos. So that's Lima India Charlie Romeo to Lima Golf Mike Kilo. Apologies for the delayed start. We lost all internet, and then basically every program I use seems to have crashed in the process. So we won't have, sadly, the overlay working. We won't have the we're not going to have the overlay. We're not going to have VATSIM. VATSIM collapsed as well. I don't think VATSIM collapsed. I think my computer did. So yeah, we've lost quite a few things. So we're going to get going anyway. It will be fine. We're also running on the Wi-Fi because the Ethernet stopped working. I have no idea what actually happened, but fingers crossed. I made a few changes to the Wi-Fi. I used to stream on it a little while ago, so hopefully we get through it this time. So yeah. So I do apologise again, but jumping into the chat just to say hello. Thanks very much for coming. We've got I don't know if everyone's still around, but we've got Rob Lewis, a turtle. Thanks for coming along. Time Walker, good to see you. Talking about the A300 version 1.1. Yes, I hadn't heard much about that until just today. So we'll talk about that once we get going. We've got Victor Tango, thanks for coming. Lizzo5, thanks for coming to moderate. We've got Matteo, I hope you're doing well, Matteo. Geordie, Joseph, thanks for coming along. Good to see you all here. Sorry if I missed some of the questions. As you can tell, we're probably running slightly behind schedule. David Doyle, good to see you. Yeah, IndyBuilds, absolutely. The IndyBuilds A300 has had some big changes. So I don't have access to the IndyBuilds early releases, so I can't show it, and I haven't seen it. But yeah, it will be good fun to get a go at that when it does come out. Hopefully not too long now. Checkpoint will be coming along. There's a few people happy for the delay, so there we go. It was a slightly earlier start than our normal streams, but there we go. Turtle Kayak, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Francesco, Leo Grande, Alexander Beck, It's Vilko, Bob Atwell. Great, brilliant. Mark Smith, good to see you. November 321 Juliet Whiskey. Hope you're doing well as well. Right, so we are on the apron, obviously, where we left ourselves last time. I think someone else was over there ready to fly as well, so I do apologise if you were planning to fly along on VATSIM. It's yeah, it's completely, my computer's very upset. So there we go. So we are going to take this in a sort of as if we've just arrived from our previous flight into here. And then we'll get ourselves set up and away, just to show you what a sort of transit looks like, transit sort of turnaround. I had this question quite regularly on my YouTube videos. You know, we do cold and dark setups, but what do you do when you're just changing over from one arrival to the next? So I'll probably do a video on it as well at some point, but I thought today would start like that as we're back in the ToLiss. We're also using the IAE engines today again, like we used to when I started the channel, and we're using the BSS sound pack that's reinstalled, so pretty happy about that. We'll give that another go. One thing I will also mention is this is version 1.2 beta of the ToLiss A321, so that's not quite released yet, but it's still going through final stages. There is a post on the ToLiss forum about it, so you can see there some of the changes. Not too many changes at the moment. It's mostly laying the groundwork for the NEO, which we've had some more news on, which I will talk about as well once we get going. Okay, let's jump in. So Louis saying, according to European law, we're entitled to a refund, aren't we? Very good. Yeah, I think it's 2 hours. 2 hours would be definitely the cutoff for a few of those things anyway, so I think I've just about made it in time. Now, things are not obviously set up. I feel like I start every stream like this. I sit down sometimes an hour before the stream to get things ready, and I've already got the flight plans and so on sorted, but even then sometimes the last 5 minutes everything just collapses, and here we are. So what we'll do is hopefully we'll find my flight plan in here. There we go. As I said, we're not on VATSIM today, sadly, but that's fine. We will be next time. We'll get that sorting, and we are going to fly this route. As you can see, flight time around 1 hour and 15 minutes. You won't get the progress bar on the screen. I'm really sorry. I have no idea why that's failed today, but I'll be working to fix that, of course, very soon. So yeah, so what we're going to do is have a go at setting this plane up. The Airbus, when you park up, it does pretty much set itself back to neutral, so you get this page on the MCDU as if you've just arrived, even from a cold and dark sort of setup. The only difference being most of these switches should be in the right place. Sorry, these fuel pumps should have been off as well. You'd have turned those off when you were shutting down. And there we go. So what we can do is, someone will be off to do the walk around, of course. Someone in here probably going to turn that on, check everything else is in a good place. Maybe turn the fuel pumps on. It depends how long the turnaround is. So actually, we'll just leave them on. Also, if your fuel is really cold, say it's you've had a long flight out here, if your fuel is down at sort of minus temperatures, you'll get ice on the bottom of the tanks. So we often wait to refuel, which we are now refueled. We got that on board, 7.7, and in the right place. Once that's on, then we'll turn the pumps on, and it helps mix up the fuel a bit, and it evens out the temperature, because the warm fuel, we want to mix it in so that we can get the ice to melt on the bottom. Otherwise, down we go, and all looking good. APU's off at the moment, but we're going to turn that on now, because these days, good to get as much ventilation through the aircraft as possible. And starts. There we go. Seatbelt signs are off, obviously. All the other lights are sort of, strobes can stay in auto, that's fine. Everything else is on the way. Right, time to jump into the MCDU and get ourselves going. You guys should get the Stream CloudBot if you... it could be running a bit late. Let's see. Oh, Spotify's just woken up as well. I've had to restart the computer about 10 times, so I don't want to play any copyrighted music or I'll soon find myself in trouble. Let's see. Let me just check. You should get the CloudBot. It sometimes takes a while to wake up. So my current specs are i7-10700K, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and RTX 3080 is the graphics card. So I think the 2013 was a recent change to the database, so we're on the newest one. But you wouldn't get too hung up checking all of these things if you've already just flown the airplane here. And then pretty much you're going to go through the same old route. So it's time for a NIT. Plugins, Avitab. Here we go. Let me just check. This is working out for you guys. Yes, great. So we're going to go from LICR. Nope, not like that. Oh dear, I need to stop pressing buttons. LICR to LGMK. No, one of those days. LGMK, there we go. Alternate today, nice and easy. We've been there before a couple of times. Athens, LGAV. Our code is going to be Manta 238. Sadly, again, none of that's in, so not going to make too much difference. Cost index 23. I think this is being tweaked, some of the cost index performances in these ToLiss updates, so I'm curious to see how they change. And cruising flight level for this one, 380, pretty high for such a relatively short flight, so we'll take that. Load in that wind request. Excellent. Flight plan time. So I'm expecting us to, let's see, what was the latest weather here? LICR. Bernard saying that the fly-by-wire A321 NEO sound pack sounds amazing. There you go. Boris, who does those, he's on the Discord quite frequently. He'll be very happy to hear that, because they've been working hard on those. And yeah, I agree, the new fly-by-wire sounds are great. Absolutely. The flight's about 1 hour 15. It'll go 1 hour 15 once we get going, which won't take too long. Right, departing from, let's see, 020. You can see I normally hope to have some of these charts ready at least. Quite an unusual little airport this. So 020 somewhere over here, so probably taking off on 33 really. For some reason we were planned via 15, but I'm not sure why. But there we go, we'll go over 33 where we landed earlier. It means that we can take off without pointing at the hills, which is good news for us. And departing via Charlie Delta Charlie. Let's have a check which one we fancy. Charlie Delta Charlie. Oh, here we go. That's nice. They put all of them on the same chart, so that does save us a bit of working things out. Still going to be a tight turn on departure. Oh, we can do whatever we fancy to head out to the Charlie Delta Charlie. These are always good fun. There's loads of different ways that you can go around here, around, back through the overhead and out, things like that. So let's take the... which one is that going to be? Taking off 33, so possibly the 6 Alpha, 166 track, is that us? That's as soon as possible. Yeah, so from 33 to 6 Alpha. There we go. Background, lots of speed limits, which we will check we are going to obey. We absolutely don't want to run into those hills, because as you can see out in front of us, lots of terrain all around here. Yeah, so definitely worth making sure we're on top of that. Okay, page 2. Let's get that route loaded in. Not too complicated. Charlie Delta Charlie. Then direct route on. Let me know how the audio is, guys, because it's different again. Now we're using PSS, so keep me updated on whether that's going to work. Well, that says flight level 38 when going east. Yeah, that is a good point, actually. It does have a step, 38 to 39. Should be an odd flight level going this way. In fact, the step is at Rutom, which is probably quite early on. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so we'll change that. Good spot. Thank you very much. So Rutom, Airways, Upper Mike 601. It's funny, that's such an old rule, and yet it's still used so regularly. You'd have thought by now there'd be all sorts of different ways of organising things, but they still stick to that. You nearly always will have the odds and evens flight level rule applied to you. Upper runway 32, Rapos. So the plan today, guys, it's just a bit of a relaxed sort of Sunday afternoon stream, I suppose. What we're going to do is, Mykonos is a bit famous. Most airlines require special training to go there, so I just thought, as we've tried out a few, we'll do this one as well while we're down here, down in the near Greece. It's got a narrow runway, so once we get underway, we'll talk about what that means to us as pilots. It's also challenging in the sense that there's only non-precision approaches. You know, it's one of those places without an RLS and so on. Short runway, narrow runway. There's a few things we're going to need to do slightly differently today. Rapos, then ToLiss. Oh dear, no, not like that. ToLiss. Inserts. ToLiss 1 Hotel. And I'm going to do the VOR 34 Zulu. The reason I want to do a VOR today is last time we did a non-precision approach using using flight path angle, FPA, and today we're going to use final app and compare and just see what the difference is. Let's choose one of these VIAs just to have it in there. Good. So there's a version of the flight plan. Secondary can be a copy. Radar page for that departure. Could be worth having something here if there's any radials we must stick to. Obviously the Romeo Charlie Alpha is going to be pretty important. You can see it saved the 174 from our approach last time, I think that is. But realistically, only the Romeo Charlie Alpha, maybe the Charlie Delta Charlie. You could leave it auto-tuned and it would almost certainly tune all of these anyway. But we're expecting to go out, round. That's the 5 Yankee. We're going to do the 5 Echo. So back round on ourselves like that. I like going through the overhead, actually. Let's change that. Let's change our departure. See, wouldn't it be nice if we could do this in real life? 3-3. I want to do the 5 Yankee. Yes, please. And we can see it there, back through the overheads. Now, these sorts of departures are quite strange because when you load them into the box like this, so once we've entered it, it doesn't actually draw these curves in the real aircraft. You get just straight lines until you enter the weights because it can't calculate the momentum and things like that. So it does tend to look slightly confusing until you get them loaded in. Oh, there we go. The Streamlabs bot has woken up. Excellent. That's good news. Good evening, Carol Turek. Hope you're doing well. Darren, good evening to you. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're all doing very well. There we go. So out 500, left turn. And we're going to go back round on ourselves, take the course 166 down to intercept the 200 radial out to Olini. From Olini, right turn. Again, still maximum 200 knots. So if I bring up constraint, yep, it does still say it. Right turn, back straight through the overhead and out to Charlie Delta Charlie. Nice sort of departure. It's always good fun to get a nice departure through the overhead because you get to look back down and see where you've come from, and it's always amazing the sort of climb performance we get on these airplanes. So it's yeah, that's good stuff. And there's our arrival. So we'll talk about that once we get going. Don't want to spend too long obsessing over the arrival just yet. So secondary, well, again, we're turning away from the hills here. The only thing I'm going to do is in the secondary, let's put a hold in at Olini, which is out over the sea, I believe, anyway. So you would check what hold, if there is a hold there, and you can. So I've now loaded the hold in at Olini, and then from the second Olini point, it doesn't work yet. So in the real aircraft, you'd be able to put in a new destination. Let's do it here. I mean, realistically, would I want to return to... Oh, there we go. So in the real aircraft, you'd put it in the second one, because otherwise it would actually clear out the hold. In the ToLiss, it seems you could put it on the first one. And there we go. So now in the secondary flight plan, we go to Olini, we hold, and then we return to our departure. Just an idea of something we might put in there. I can even put in the approach localizer 33 alpha, just in case we fancy doing that again. And now that's all loaded in, ready to go, just in case we want an immediate return. Finally then, in it B, let's get some air on for those passengers. Let's go to the ground power. Plug in ToLiss. So ground services. Nope, loading perf. Here we go. Fill the screen, fill the screen. SB, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming along. So, slightly lighter today. You'd almost certainly have some sort of performance limit going to Mykonos. It's a short runway, potentially very hot in the summer. So, what we can't do is set off there with full load, full passengers, full bags. It's probably not going to work. So, we'll have some sort of limit. So, somewhere you have to take particular attention to. And it could be that you might be able to land okay, but then leaving again, you don't want to get stuck there. So sometimes we tanker fuel where we carry enough fuel to get back again. That can be risky if you end up landing with too much fuel and then you find you've got performance problems. So yeah, so luckily today we've only got 91 passengers. I've solved that problem for us as ever, the magic of flight sim. So we're going to go with 60.6 tons and a CG of 34, very aft. Surprisingly aft for a 321. That's really rare. Yeah, let's check that is right. Yep, 34. Block fuel 7.7. We only need 6.7, but again, higher chance of a go around or a balked landing, as it's called, where if we don't like the landing, we'll bin it. Or go around because we don't want to get going off the end of this runway. Absolutely not. And we've got a good alternate today, Athens. So 1 ton seems plenty. Nice weather too. Okay, so there's an it B. This could be a flap 2 sort of day. Yeah, I think it's going to be. So takeoff 3-3 with no shift. We'll take off flaps 2. Flex temp 41. I'm planning to make a video about flex temp stuff to sort of talk about what it actually means and when we use it, how it applies. So hopefully that'll be useful for you guys. V1 142, VR 151, and V2 154. So those are reasonable speeds. As we can see, a significant split, 9 knot split between V1 and rotate. So very go-minded. Quite high speeds as well. I think this will look quite short on this runway. We'll be rotating quite late on it, I imagine. There we go. Great stuff. So that is the MCDU loaded up. Next step, what should we do next? Let's have a think. We've checked our departure, we've checked our SID. Let's check our routing out of here. We're going to go out by Bravo, backtrack, use the turning pad down here, which is always nice and easy compared to trying to do it on the runway. And off we go. Make our left turn. Speed limits are 200 knots. We saw that on here. I've got constraint selected, as you would have done from the arrival. 200 knots all the way around the turn. So I can't clean up until I've flown all the way around Alini, 200 knots and then right, and then right. So yeah, it's going to take a bit of time to wait for the flaps to come up, but we will certainly go from 2 to 1. Thanks to Bazza for your subscription. I hope you're enjoying the video. Okie doke, right. Good stuff. Got a route out of here, got a departure, get ourselves underway. Just as general context, if I show you, not route, no, I always get that wrong, maps, show you where we're going. We are here, south of Italy, next to Sicily, and we're going to head over to JMK, which is over here pretty much, I think it's pretty much east. One of these islands here. And of course I've got some Wikipedia facts for the islands when we get there. One thing I should do is find the stop altitude, not listed on here. Okie doke. In this case, we're going to go up to the MSA, 8,500 feet in that direction, which is probably a flight level. So let's say we're cleared up to flight level 100 already. Not uncommon. Okie doke. Put the terrain on. Let's get some weather in. Airports. NICR. Oh, right. So what have we got? So as we said, slightly northeasterly wind, 14 degrees. QNH 1002. QNH 1002, 14 degrees. Alan Story, thank you very much for the £10 donation. That's very kind of you. Alan says, "Hi Captain, welcome to the world of stroppy PCs with a mind of their own." Yes, absolutely. You know, I think we've been quite lucky on the channel so far with our internet. We have had a few mishaps. I say lucky. We've had quite a few mishaps over the months, but this was definitely the first time I've had it go so catastrophically wrong. I've had X-Plane uninstall itself all of a sudden and have to be reinstalled in the build-up, and we've obviously had the Microsoft Flight Simulator mess. But I'm sorry for the Streamlabs not bringing up that alert, so that's a bit of a shame. I don't know why that's happened either. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Alan. Thanks for your donation. It's really appreciated. There we go. It is working. It's coming through. And yeah, thanks. I'm glad you guys have stuck around. Thanks for coming along. So, and Alan's been supporting the channel for a long time, so thank you very much for your support, Alan, as always. Right, ground power's gone, so let's get rid of that. Make sure the available light is green to show you that we're not using it. If the ground crew try and put it out while it's in use, it does happen very rarely. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. There'll be a live connection until they put it out, and it also can mess up the aircraft systems. So we'll turn that off. Of course, sometimes it fails. That does also happen. They can see downstairs. There is a light in a little panel down underneath the nose. I think we can see it out here, really. There's this panel here. I talked about it in my new walk around video. And in that panel, they can see whether you're using it. So they shouldn't put it out, but they don't always check. The bulbs sometimes get broken, and sometimes it just falls out because it's a heavy cable that gets plugged in, as you can see, vertically like that. So it's not a great system in some senses. So they're supposed to hook it on. There's a little hook so it doesn't fall out and just yank out the cable. Right. We're going to go to... we've done the ToLiss stuff. Let's go to the ground handling. I like the drive away. Always good. I think we're going to do a taxi out here. Let me just check that. Yes, excellent. Love a good taxi out. Mike James, thanks for your subscription. I hope you're enjoying the video. Alexander Pasuto, good to see you. I'm doing well, and yeah, we are back in the Airbus A321. We had a few different streams. My last stream was in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The one before that was the ToLiss, but then before that we did the A300, we did the 757. I will be going back to the A300 when the new update comes out for it for the rest of us, and certainly I've got the 350 that's in the works. So we've got some more planes to do, so I thought yeah, it would be good to do some more A321 stuff. And as I said, ToLiss have just updated this, and very soon we're looking at getting the 321 NEO update, which will include the performance changes, the ECAM changes, which is great. I'm really excited about that. Right, there they go. I do like this ground handling plugin, one of the best plugins. Absolutely brilliant, great fun. Now what I should do, and what I must do, is bring up the good old checklist. I hope you're doing well as well, Alexander. Good to see you here. Hayden J. Robbins, good to see you as well. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're doing well. Darian likes the aircraft skin. Thanks very much. I'm glad you like it. I know it's not for everyone, but yeah, it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun. Right. Let's think. Okay. That should be on perf. We'll put that to flight plan. Everything else is looking in a reasonable position. Give ourselves a squawk. Are we ready? Oh yeah, what we'll do is we'll change that over. Do that now to on instead of auto. Right. Let's do the checklist. So cockpit prep is completed. You'll almost certainly see pilots look up for cockpit preparation. It's the first line in the Airbus checklist, and everyone just stares at the overhead panel as if that's going to be the whereas to look. But basically, any white lights is going to be a big flag that you haven't done everything. So cockpit prep is completed. Gear pins and covers removed. Again, I talk about those in my walk around video. Signs need to go on. Fueling's complete. Signs on and auto. ADIs are in nav. Something you'd have done when you arrived on a transit stop is you'll go to data, position monitor, and then you'll look here at these numbers and make sure they aren't too big. If you have sort of 2.0, 2.8, and then 10, you know there's a problem with one of them. And there is a chart that we use to work out what sort of limits there are on that. So obviously 0, 0, 0 is perfect. That means that their drift compared to each other is 0. They are all in exactly the same place. You'll never see that after a flight. It would always be slightly different from each other. Fuel quantity 3.8, 3.8, 7.7 and balanced. Excellent. Takeoff data is set, and it's set up here. Power F is set to 1002, giving us about 100 feet. Sensible. Windows and doors closed, and let's do those are closed and off as well. Let's get that beacon on. Transponder to transponder. Mobile phone should be off by now. Thrust levers are idle. Parking brake is set. The reason that's in the checklist is some airlines will turn that off during the turnaround and rest the aircraft on the chocks. That way the brakes can cool down more. So if you don't have brake fans, luckily we do, but if you don't, then that is a useful way to cool down the brakes. It lets the air get between the brakes and the disc. Right. And Massimo Della Pena, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Good evening. Nice Rest says, been working in Bremen, now an engineer for Airbus. Brilliant. Yeah, we have another Airbus engineer who sometimes comes along. Window seat, I'm not sure if he's here today. N321 JW, which ground handling plugin is that? This is the ground handling, I think, designed by JAR Design, GHD, from the X-Plane Org store. Yeah, very good. Good evening, Atomic Flight Simulation. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming along. Fantastic. Time to start the engines then. I think we're doing all right for time in the end after all that. It's, yeah, apologies again for that delayed start. Right. Timing is everything, obviously, when you go flying. If you end up late with the passengers, you'll be explaining yourself for the entire flight. Absolutely, as you should. People expect to get somewhere on time. Let's get these engines started up. Checklist is complete. If you listen carefully, you can hear it go quieter. They've simulated that even in the BSS sound pack, which is what I'm using. They simulate the packs closing, which is really good. Let me just check outside it is actually clear. Let's get rid of the rest of these so we can actually taxi away. Right, starting engine 2. Oh no, don't do that. There we go. So the upcoming NEO by ToLiss, if you go to their forum, you can see some of the features it's going to include, and there's some good things in it. It's going to have, for example, if you have the Pratt & Whitney engines, not the LEAP, which I think most of us are more used to. The Pratt & Whitney engines, they're going to have the thing where it does its cooling and it brings up a message on the ECAM. Features like that they have thought about. And the LEAP engines have different messages on the top as well, which I'll talk about later. Uwe Melis, hello, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Alright, good start, available. Let's start engine 1. We're going to need both engines in an airport like this. Not only is it probably a short enough taxi, but most importantly, we're going to do a sharp right turn, so it's best to have both, really. You could do it, I suppose, because it's a right turn. You could start just engine 1 and probably make it round, but yeah, not worth it, given that we're going to have to enter the runway about 3 seconds after we taxi. Right, engine 2 doing well. Turtle Kayak says, anyone see that A320 NEO which set more flaps instead of retracting landing gear? Was that on takeoff, was it? I haven't seen that one. Right, there we go. Avail, looking good. Back to norm. APU can come off. You can hear the packs coming back to life. Let's run the engines to warm them up. Just 3 minutes required. And we'll run through our flow. So, APU bleed off, APU off. And we don't need any of the anti-ice again. Seeing as we're down in a much warmer part of the world. Don't need to do that yet. Stand by. Yeah, we do. We're going to do that. That's flaps 2. And set the trim. So it is an after trim today. It is currently at 34.2. So we are going to do that. Over we go. Round we go. 34.2. There it is. It's always funny turning this, because when you turn this, you're directly turning the stabilizer at the back, and it moves accordingly. So you can see it looks a bit more up than it would normally, because obviously the airplane's tail heavy, so it's going to try and keep the nose down. So yeah, it's just funny. It's such a light control, you know. It's so easy to turn, and it's moving such a big piece of metal at the back. Nice West says, is the PTU noticeable from the cockpit? No, you don't hear it. The PTU is that barking dog noise, and if you, in the ToLiss menu, they actually tell you, I didn't realise, but if you do 3D sound fading, you won't hear the PTU and flaps in the cockpit, because you can't in the real airplane. And the 321s are the quietest of all anyway. Right, up to start checklist. Anti-ice is off. Ecam status is checked. Pitch trim is set at 34 and rudder trim is at 0. We always reset the rudder trim, even if it says 0. You just press it just to make sure. So yeah, so talking about Total Kayaks mentions that they had a 320 NEO set more flaps instead of retracting the landing gear. That is, you know, there's a theme in aviation. It's happened. It's going to happen again. Hopefully not. We try our best, but people moving flaps or gear instead of the other one. It does happen on takeoff and landing. So yeah, it's not the first time I've heard of it happening. Anyway, put it that way. But yeah, we hope it not to. Okay, we're going to do a sharp right turn. You definitely have some ground crew. You'd hope you have one here waving to you and someone over here checking we don't bump into the Alitalia. So I'm going to not turn the lights on until we've turned around because we've got crew too nearby. But let's get going. So, just to demonstrate this, yeah, I think this will be fine. Brakes released. Oh, the ToLiss. Well, it'll be better if the ToLiss doesn't do its usual parking brake trick. And here we go. I absolutely love the manoeuvrability on these airplanes. I go on about it every stream, I think. The trick here will be do not let your momentum stop or you'll have real problems. So that is interesting. More of the problem is that your tail is now going to go wider out than your wingtips. So you do have to be careful of that. So turning too sharp can sometimes bite you in the back, quite literally. Okay, let's get ourselves over to the holding point and then we'll run through everything else. You wouldn't want to enter the runway here because until you are ready to go, because once you're on the runway there's no other option, there's nowhere else to get off it again. Right, around we go, up to the holding point. And get right up to the line, just for my own amusement. I always like to see where we can get to without rolling over. Let's try that. Stop. Oh, that could be a bit far. Have we made it? Yeah, even that. Still way back from the line. So hard to judge. So hard. Right. So, some things we'd have done during the taxi. Captain Ontario, thanks for your subscription. We would do our flight control check, so let's do that. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Full down. Full up. Neutral. Rudder. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Good. Other pilot would do theirs. Then we're going to put this weather radar auto, ground clutter suppression auto. Oh, I don't know if ToLiss are going to put the new weather radar into the NEO. That would be exciting. The new weather radar is an amazing piece of kit. So anyway, we've turned the predictive wind shear to auto. You would always have that on. Weather radar we could leave off today as there's nothing out there. A bit hazy today though. Anyway, that's on system 1. Transponder is set to TARA. Max auto brake. Bing bong the cabin crew. And takeoff config. Run through our brief. So this little brief is just an update on what we would have done earlier with the other pilot obviously. But we're going to make sure that we're going to take off on the correct runway. So 33 going that way. Then we're going to make our left turn almost immediately, or it says above 500 feet. Below 200 knots. Round, intercept out 200 to Olini. We're going to climb to flight level 100. So we're going to set standard once we are at some point in the climb after cleaning up. There's a nice train going past. A typical joke in pilots. I don't know if it happens all over the world. It does in the UK anyway. So if you see a train on final approach, then someone almost certainly says train, train. Almost always that joke happens. But there we go. Okay, so around we go. Alexander Pasuto's probably heard that one as well. Left turn, up we go. Flight level 100. We've got our speeds in. We have a split, so we are going to take our hands off the thrust levers at 142 knots, and then we're going to rotate the airplane at 151 knots. Funnily enough, the 151 doesn't get displayed, but it is obviously on the speed tip as we get there faster. Flap 2 takeoff, nothing too different about that for today, so that should be fine, and we'll go with packs on because we've got plenty of spare performance. Right, what do we think? Are we pretty much ready to go? Before takeoff checklist, flight controls, we've checked both, flight instruments are checked, briefings confirmed, flap setting config 2 up there, config 2 in there, so that's correct. FMAs and takeoff, we've got 142, 154, climb nav blue, 1FD2, up to 10,000 feet, becoming a flight level please. Transponder is set to TARA. Ecam memo, takeoff, no blue. let's get ourselves on the runway. So we get all these lights on, make ourselves as bright as possible. Some airlines will give a bing bong to the cabin crew at this point to warn them that we're about to go. Depends on your personal airline. And obviously, let's have a proper look around. Oh, let's try and get my desk organised so I can reach everything I need to. There we go. Right. Clear on the approach. That was what the approach we did last time. And clear on the right. Fantastic. Let's go. So, backtracking. Always careful. Don't embarrass yourself by going the wrong way. So think very carefully at this point. Anytime you're doing a turn like this, even if you're just on the taxiways, I need to go left. I must go left. Do not turn right. It has happened, of course, in the real world where people have got the wrong intersections or so on. So you do not want to get that muddled up. The really fancy airports will have signs everywhere warning you. Train joke does not happen in Germany. There we go. No. Yeah, we have a turtle and turtle kayak. Excellent. Derek Lewis, thanks very much for coming along, and I'm really glad that you've enjoyed the videos. Only flown Boeing planes in the past, taught those and how the systems work. That's great. Thanks for coming to tell me, Derek, and I really appreciate it. I'm glad the videos have been useful for you. It's great. I love it. Love it when people get some use out of them, get to enjoy the Airbus a bit, because I like the Airbus a lot, as you guys can tell, I'm sure. Alexander Pasuto is happy flying the 777 more often. Excellent. That's really good to hear. Yeah, not so much short haul flying going on in my world at the moment, but hopefully soon. Hello to Moan Aliani. Why don't I use Flight Factor 320? I don't have it. I've got their someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think the 350 is by Flight Factor, so I do have one of their planes, and I have their 757. I know they made that with another team, but I do have Flight Factor products. I just don't have their 320. I just have their 321. I don't have the A319 either. Mr. Espresso, good to see you. Arriving a bit late. Not at all. We were late starting, so you've come at a perfect time. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for coming along, Mr. Espresso. I hope you're having a good day. Right. So last time we did do the turn on the runway, so this time much easier. We get to turn using these turning pads. In airports like this, I don't know if they have a limitation, but in a lot of airports with narrow runways or short runways, or in hot countries, they'll have limitations on when you're allowed to do your 180-degree turn, which is quite interesting, or quite strange really. You'd think, well, it's just a tarmac runway, surely that you can do it, or asphalt. But no, you can't. In a lot of airports, you have to use the turning pads like this, because the strain on the tarmac, when you turn an airline like this around on that nose wheel, it does grind up some of the runway, so they don't like it. So you'll have to go and use the wider turning circle, which is obviously less of an issue. Right, here we go. So, I think we're pretty much ready to go. Engines are definitely warm at 9 minutes. I'm hoping the ToLiss, like I say, this is the beta version, so I've hopefully got the settings in the right place, but if there are any problems, it's still being worked on. I think we're ready to go. Below line, its cabin is secured, engine mode select as required, normal, as nearly always. We've got TCAS to TARA, and the packs are going to be on for this takeoff. Right, let's go. Takeoff. Half side stick forward, try and get 50% on the N1. Bit much there. Man, Flex 41, SRS. Order thrust is blue and arms. There's that VSS sound doing its work. $80 to 100 knots, side sticks to neutral. Yeah, it's going to be a long roll on this runway. We have got that wind is correct at least. V1. Rotates. Wow. Positive climb. Gear comes up. Nav mode. Yeah, I'm not even sure flat 1 would have worked there. 500 feet, round we go. $500 feet, typical minimum for sort of these full-on turns. 30 degrees of bank. That's quite a serious turn below 1,000 feet, but 500 feet is usually the limit for most airlines. Okay, through 1500s. Thrust climb, auto thrusts. Let's see what altitude we pass straight through the overhead at. Accelerating, flaps can go from 2 to 1, but they're going to stay at 200 now. We're not going to retract them any further because we know our clean speed is too fast. So, autopilot 1. One of the problems here is now it's in managed speed. It's going to do 200 knots right up until, I think, Alini, and then after Alini it will just drop that restriction and just accelerate. So, really important we don't miss that. We're climbing up to flight level now, so we're going to set standard. Flight level 100 is set and blue. That's it really. We can't do much else. We can't do the checklist. We can't disarm the spoilers. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to wait, focus on flying. It's easy to think, oh well, now we could do some other things and get going with something else, but nope, we want to just get the airplane going. Now, having said that, I'm going to immediately do the opposite. Go to some nice outside views. There we go. Yeah, that was quite a sporty departure. We did indeed, yeah, pay and use the whole runway, absolutely. Seems to be a bit of a breeze up here, bit of crosswinds. Yeah, 24 knots across. Mo Aliani says, yeah, why not flight factor 320 when you're a 320 sim pilot? Great point. That is a really great point. I was 320 sim pilot when I started the channel, and we always used the ToLiss 321, and that's just where we've been since. The first time I used the 320 on the channel was with the Microsoft Flight Simulator 320. So yeah, made it awkward when we got to 320 subscribers. It was hard to know whether to celebrate that more or the 321 subscribers, so we celebrated both in the same video. So look at this climb rate, ridiculous. We are going to go straight up to flight 100, so I don't see any reason we can't go up to 390. We are very light, which is why 390 is recommended. It's probably the no, okay, it's not the optimum. 37 is the optimum. Recommended max is 390. Okay, so you can see that it's changed. It says new cruise out because I had I think it was 380 in there. When you put in the new one, it just automatically updates if you put in anything higher. So here we go. I'm not going to go to flight level 390 because it's the recommended max, and if I do, the margin between overspeed and low speed is so small that I don't want to do it. No one does it. It's possible, but it's not ideal. It's certified to do it, but no one likes to. Most people like 1,000, 1,500 feet clearance between the two. I can also see Optimus 373, so far better. We pick the lower of the next flight levels. We'll do 370 to start with, and I can put 370 in here. All things I shouldn't be doing right now, because what I should be doing is flying the airplane and getting ready for these flaps to come in. Flaps can stay out up until flight level 200, but it is interesting how high we've managed to climb before we got to Alini. There we go, and now it's going to accelerate for us. I don't really want it to accelerate too much around the turn. I don't want to do 300 knots around a turn. So I'm going to actually pull the speed and just set to 30. We are above our S speed and accelerating. Got to have that up arrow, so flaps to 0. Disarm those ground spoilers. Turn off all the lights now. We're above flight 100. There we go. The nose is nice and low. Actually, no, it's not, because it's going to go up again when we reach 230. So let's leave the seatbelts on, and we'll get ourselves going. Radnav we can clear. Actually, we'll clear neither. We're going to still use them because we're turning around to point at them now. We can see their needles on here. If I go to VOR, actually we don't need VOR. We can use any of these modes. Perhaps nav mode, and you'll see the needles fully there pointing at the two VORs. Baron Shaw says, anyone else having trouble with the new ToLiss version 1.1? I can't say I've had any trouble with it. And I'm now using the beta version 1.2, and it seems okay. So I'm not sure. Coffin corner, exactly. Bernard's talking about that area where you have overspeed and underspeed right next to each other. That's called coffin corner. As a way to remind you how dangerous it is. It's where you're simultaneously going to overspeed and run out of lift all at once. It's quite an unusual place. Not very comfortable. If you're in totally smooth air, you'd be fine at the recommended maximum. So if we know there's no turbulence, going up to 390 would be fine. You don't want to go above this number, obviously. as we burn more fuel, this number will increase. As the airplane gets lighter, the loading on the wing reduces, and then that becomes more acceptable. So there you go. Even though I took the speed back to 230 knots, because we've got some strong winds up here, it's actually blown us, we've gone all the way through, and now we're having to make it back onto that radial. Just as an example of what that needle means, so we want to be on, let's see if we can get it in time. We need to track the 217 inbounds towards the Romeo Charlie Alpha. So if I get rid of the other VOR and we just have the Romeo Charlie Alpha, it needs to be on the 217, which means that tail it needs to be on the 217. Obviously, easy way to think of it is to do the reciprocal. 37. Always difficult to do maths like that. So we need this needle to be on 037, so it's on 038 slightly. So the airplane is pointing slightly to the right to keep pushing the head to the left. So we want to keep our track further to the right. And now that needle is just reaching 037, so you can see the green diamond, our track, is going to reach 037 as well. Again, it's something I'll talk about more in future videos. We are really flying now. Okay, pointing inbound to that. Next step, Charlie Delta Charlie. So let's accelerate. Manage speeds. Now let the airplane accelerate on its own. And off we go. We are using live weather, even though we're not on that sim, just in case you're wondering. So somebody asked, good question, Sky173 said, I'm curious to those that use both Microsoft Flight Simulator and X-Plane, does the 320 feel the same in each sim? I've never used X-Plane before. No. X-Plane is, at the moment, X-Plane feels better. Microsoft Flight Simulator is improving, the fly-by-wire team are doing a good job, but the X-Plane pay where Airbus is, so ToLiss 319 or 321, and I haven't tried the flight factor, but I hear it's pretty good. So those are all, they all handle very well, I think better. Particularly the way this flies is really nice. Yep, this is X-Plane 11 Richie Race. Yep. So far I've only streamed Microsoft Flight Simulator as a group flight, but I may, as the mod gets better, I may use it to use the 320 in that for a stream as well. Just deciding. But I do like I think the Flight Simulator multiplayer is fantastic. Really good fun. Right, seatbelts can come off now because we're not turning and we've got that nose down below 10 degrees and it's not going to come up again. Seatbelt signs off. Let's get back to ARC and put airport up. See what's going on around us. Anyway, we want to divert into the CDC. So we're heading up. There you go. That's good. It was always good fun when you can see country outlines on the terrain map. So we're heading up the Shu of Italy and then making our right turn over to Greece. Yeah, Sky 173. X-Plane is good. It's a different purpose though. You see the graphics and so on aren't quite the same, but it's got some really nice simulations in it. Yeah. Right. What shall we do next? I think we're in a pretty good place. Hear those IAE buzzsaw engines going for it. If you guys like the livery, there is, as I've said before, so I apologise to those that have heard this before, but just in case someone hasn't, there is a merchandise store now for the channel, so you can go to Teespring, pick up t-shirts, mug, stickers, something like that, using the livery or the colours. So those are now available. And thank you very much to those who have supported the channel in all their various ways, including merchandise and donations. It's really appreciated. And I hope you enjoy your merchandise, those of you who've gone for that option. I've seen a few people on Discord. Video Man Chris, I think, posted on Discord. He's got his, put his stickers on his car. Yanis says, how long to the top of descent? Good question. It might not work, because I know the ToLiss doesn't work unless you have a complete flight plan. What I can do is clear out the discontinuity, even though it's not, perhaps not what we're going to do. So 15:24, yeah, about an hour and 15. I think we'll be a bit quicker than that. An hour and 10 maybe. Thomas Mortimer, good to see you, Thomas. I haven't seen Thomas Mortimer in a little while. So good to see you. Thanks for coming. Thomas has always got intense Airbus questions ready. So, have you discussed the ToLiss A321 NEO LR and XLR release on the 15th? So we have mentioned it. So ToLiss are bringing out. So this is version 1.2, which is not available yet. It's coming very soon. It's currently in beta. Soon there will be the NEO. So this sort of sets the foundation for the NEO. The NEO is planned on December the 15th release. I'm sure that could change though, but that's the current plan. That's what they said. It's going to include the Pratt & Whitney and the LEAP options, as I said earlier. $29.95 was the current US dollar price for it, I believe. It's going to have loads of things. So, yeah, they're going to have the 321 NEO. Then they're going to have the 321 NEO, and Thomas has got the right names there, because I always forget the names. You've got long range and extra long range. They've got the correct visual models for those, so they've got the right flaps for the XLR, which is great. They've got the correct different in some of the ECAM aspects for the engines already, but I haven't seen it. I haven't used it myself, so I can't be 100% certain on what features it does and doesn't have yet, but I look forward to trying it out, and we'll be trying it out on this channel hopefully very soon. So do stay tuned. Do subscribe if you'd like to be notified, or hit the little bell. I'll put up a community post before we do, but the plan will be to, as soon as we can, get that into a stream and have a look at it with you guys, because I know it's something that I've been very excited about, and I know a lot of you guys have been. So yeah, it's on the way. They said that they'll update the model compared to whatever the real XLR does, because I'm not sure there's any 321 XLRs out there yet. I'm not sure. Something I need to look up. Thomas Mortimer says, technical question, what's the difference between thrust descent and thrust idle? Where have you seen thrust descent? It would either be speed or thrust climb or thrust descent. Sorry, thrust idle. I haven't seen thrust descent. Where did you see that, Thomas? Out of interest, unless I'm embarrassing myself here. Again, it's been a little while. It's like back in summer when suddenly you're away from the airplane for a while. Michael Levine, safe to say X-Plane for IFR, Microsoft Flight Simulator for VFR? Yes, very safe to say at the moment, very. XLR is under development. Oh yeah, we have another engineer. I should be talking to the engineer. XLR. So what's going to be new about the XLR at Nice West? What separates it from the long range? Because I know we've had long range aircraft before. XLR's end of 2021. Yeah, so ToLiss have said they'll provide updates for it. Yeah, maybe it's... Oh, I see. Is it a Boeing term? Thrust descent. You know what? I don't know if thrust descent is still a... It's certainly not an Airbus term I've heard of, but if it is a Boeing term, I'm afraid I don't know. I know the Boeings have lots of different... I'll call them... Oh, I don't want to sound insulting. Interesting speeds. And auto thrust modes, thrust hold and things like that, which we don't have on the Airbus. So curious. Yeah, this aircraft is not based on the Aerosoft A320. It is based on the ToLiss A321. Yeah, they made it themselves, I believe, from scratch. Hayden says, I might get involved in the fly-by-wire project, would be rude not to. Yeah, Hayden, I believe, has software experience, so yeah, I'm sure they'd love it. There's a huge team, and the organisation is very impressive, how they keep coming up with these updates. Ooh, look at that weather ahead. That is a pretty tool, so I'm going to put that like that. And that is interesting. I've never seen the ToLiss actually show some weather. It's slightly concerning. Let's put the tilt up. Normally it shows you the tilt on here, unless I've got this set wrong. Let's put WX plus T. Weather radar down here. You don't want it in WX, you want WX plus T, weather and turbulence. Leave this in calibrated now, and we're going to have, yeah, probably actually tilt just 1 or 2 degrees up. I mean, that weather radar picture is not concerning on its own. Is that Stefan? Thanks for subscribing. I hope you're enjoying the video. That's fine, it's all green, but the bigger question is, why is it painting up here? Because it's so cold outside now. It's minus 43 degrees static air temperature. So it's minus 43, so any moisture in the air has now turned into ice. So if you're still getting returns, it must be so that the returns meaning where the radar returns. So obviously the radar transmits and then it waits for that signal to come back, and then it looks at that signal and decides whether it's seeing moisture or not. It only senses moisture. So if it's sensing moisture up here at 30,000 feet, then we know these are probably pretty serious. So yeah, not very easy to figure out a path through, because you'd hopefully have sort of specific cells, as it were. You don't tend to get just totally scattered. But it can turn, I tell you what, it can turn a 4-hour flight into a really fun 4 hours if you have to spend the entire time getting around weather and thunderstorms. And sometimes you do, there's nothing else for it. Dave JR says, if you pop out the MCDU in the ToLiss, does it bring the buttons out too, and are they functional? How do you mean? If I click like that, then yep, the buttons will work on here, absolutely, which is great. You can also set it to do that as a pop-out window, as a hold out of the window, if you're going to use I believe that's for if you use a home cockpit of some variety, which I do not. Ibrahim's, my flight is 1 hour, it's supposed to be about 1 hour 15. Thanks for your subscription to Amir Namatsi. But today it's going to be 15:23, yeah, about an hour, probably about an hour and 5 left to go. Ibrahim, I'm doing very well, thanks for coming along. Sorry, I read your messages in the wrong order. A321X, does it improve the physics on the A320? I think it changes some performance things. They're quite good at that, and they're trying to work out, but there's some things they're limited by because of the way Asobo have made the simulator and stuff that isn't ready to be fiddled with. Oh, there's one of those explain weather reloads, there we go. So I'm not sure it's entirely, they haven't changed it too much, but I'm sure they're working on it. The airport codes today are Lima India Charlie Romeo to Lima Golf Mike Kilo. You could put an exclamation mark route into the chat and you'll get the whole route from the cloud bot. The reason there's no overlay today, it's very embarrassing, it's sitting there completely blank. It's got the right aircraft, I suppose, is because we had a complete computer crash and meltdown just before the stream. I really hope I can get the overlay back, because it's it's a pain trying to remake overlays, I tell you. So fingers crossed, before my next stream I'll have that all back up and running. And I'm hoping to be streaming, like I say, very soon with the A321 NEO. How are we doing then? We're still climbing well, but we will eventually run out of that climb performance up here. I'm surprised we're still doing this well, to be honest. The pilots are talking. Thanks for your subscription. I hope you're enjoying the video. Flight Sim Dude says, do you keep power in when you are landing or idle across the threshold? It's not about when you reduce the thrust to idle. It's going to be based entirely on your altitude and how you're judging the landing. Usually you idle the thrust levers some point shortly after 30 feet, and they must be at idle before you touch down. They must be at idle when the wheels touch the runway. Thrust des might just be for 380, 350. A bit like you can get thrust climb for them to, or thrust decline. Just checked on Google. There we go. Yeah, someone asked earlier, am I planning on streaming the 350? Yes, absolutely. Our very own moderator, Matteo Chewy, has done a great job. He's made some tutorials on setting it up, so I'm going to follow those through, see if that covers everything, and then hopefully I can get the airplane into the sky. Plan is 30,000 subscribers, and we'll be going for a long haul stream, and that will have to be in the 350. So we're getting close to 29. So if we make it to 30, then we'll definitely do a long haul stream. We may do it sooner anyway. But yeah, it's always nice to have some goals. Natalie Stevens, hello, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're enjoying the stream, and hopefully see you again in another stream or video in the future. Georgios Navrosidis says hello, good to fly to Mykonos. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're enjoying it. Landing 1-4, no, I think we're going to land today, because last time we did an approach we did along localizer into Reggio Calabria. So today we're going to land Mykonos 3-4 using the final approach, VOR style approach, because I was asked on the Discord shortly after my last flight, is it possible to land off a VOR approach without having to do it the old fashioned way? So I want to show what that is and what sort of things we look for. Last time I talked about that on the channel, I think it was back in when I did the original video in, well, May, somewhere around there. Thank you for your subscription. I'm really sorry I won't get the name right, so I won't try. But I appreciate your subscription though, and Gareth Chester's as well. Thanks for coming along. Amir says, what's your usual Costanex number? What are we using today? We're using 23. There we go. About to level off. I should watch that very carefully. Mac outstar. Excellent. So yeah, anything up to 30. Don't tend to end up going higher above that more very often. Seacaster below. Let's have a good look through the systems pages. Engines, bleed. So the ToLiss update, the NEO, I say update, the NEO package, like I say, it's payware, would include the correct fuel flows and everything like that, so they've got the right performance, which is going to be fantastic. They're going to have their own sounds as well, so that's going to mean no more BSS. Like I was using the CFM with the new ToLiss sounds. I think they were F-mod sounds, but yeah, it's going to take a bit of adjusting. I just need to get the rest of my streaming setup working. Georges, you're very welcome. Amir says, let's do flight Phoenix to Singapore by Singapore Airlines test flight. Yes, that must be one amazing length flight. I mean, that would be quite fun, wouldn't it? I do sometimes think about doing it full on 14 hours, but I don't know if I'll have time by the time we get there. It all depends. Hopefully I'll be flying again. LDR in flight says, do you have a favourite airport to fly into? That's a really good question. That is a really good question. I try not to say too much about where I fly, just so I don't end up accidentally giving away who I work for. But there's a few airports I do enjoy. That's a good question. There's a few I've done on the channel that I enjoy. Venice being one. Athens being another. It's you know, you get comfortable flying to certain destinations and you start to know them quite well. Then you tend to get a little bit lazy. I hope you guys can still hear me. So you get so used to the certain destinations that you go to all the time. Suddenly it's quite good to get a break from that and go somewhere different, because a lot of people don't realise, and you guys probably do know obviously, but the most common question I get asked from people when they find out I'm a pilot, and there's that old joke, how do you know you're talking to a pilot at a party? Well, they'll tell you. But it's something that people don't realise, that we can fly to any destination pretty much. Now Mykonos is an exception. There's usually special training required for one of the pilots, but you know, I can go to work or swap airline and suddenly I'll be flying somewhere new that I've never been to before, and it's entirely possible you'll go somewhere brand new with a captain who's brand new. Now your airline will have to have obviously had some idea about it. They can't just send you to a dangerous destination or somewhere that's particularly challenging, like I say Mykonos or Innsbruck, without knowledge and training. Certainly there'll be regulatory requirements, so performance issues, does your airplane fit in there and so on. But aside from that, yeah, you can just come to work. You and the captain may have never been there, or you and the FO may never have been there, and you just have to work it out. And that's where you end up with these sort of briefing charts. You might do a bit of extra study the day before to make sure you've got some idea. You might talk to other people who've been there, all of that sort of stuff. LGMK coming up. What's the hardest approach to fly? Yeah, that's a good question. And that's actually going to come up. Yeah, brilliant. You've given me the perfect segue, Flight Sim Dude, for something I wanted to mention. This new version of the ToLiss, so version 1.2, is going to also have the Innsbruck 08 RNAV coded into it better. So now it should work, I believe, but I haven't tried it yet. So hardest approach, Madeira. This is classic. So Funchal. You've got Innsbruck, of course. The one we did on our last flight was pretty tough, I'd say. That would be a tough on a day out. So that was Reggio Calabria. You've got some other ones. It's funny, you know, and some more normal approaches can be the worst for unsuspecting reasons. So it could just be a really, really busy airport that's really difficult to fly into because it's just so busy and air traffic is so congested. Or it could be an airport that has so much terrain around it that even if it's just an ILS, once you're through the terrain, that there's always bad turbulence, things like that. So yeah, all sorts of things. David Doyle says, are you planning a stream in Canada? I think yes, definitely, yeah. I haven't decided how I'm going to do that. Probably take the 350 over, because we've already done Keflavik, so I don't really want to fly to Keflavik on the way over if we can go straight over in the 350. The pilots are talking, says, compared to a real-life Airbus, how realistic is the feel of landing in X-plane as far as stopping distance and the way the plane acts during touchdown? Or acts touching down? I think it's really good, and it's only gotten better. The handling of the ToLiss 321 on the ground is excellent, and it's so, yeah, I think it represents the real airplane very well, and the rollout times as well. Yeah, absolutely. I've got no issues with it. I really like it. It's hard to replicate the feel of the side stick of the real airplane in the simulator, of course, because you're just using whatever you're using at home, but still. Wrong thing here. Here we go. Yeah, Victor Tango says, how about the approaching to power in Bhutan? Yeah, so there are approaches all around the world that are much more challenging than I'd have seen on my short haul aircraft. So there's obviously Alexander Pasuta, if he's still here, may know some of those. I'm sure the 777 goes to a few of them. There's places like, well, obviously anyone who's flown in Flight Simulator X will remember Quito approach being a famous one. You've got I think Rio de Janeiro has some interesting steeper approaches with lots of terrain around. Paro being another one, yeah. Tonkontin is another one. Thank you for your stream. Sorry for English and Russian. No problem at all. Thank you very much for coming along and chatting to us, and thanks for your subscription. We normally fly on the network. Again, I do apologise, I won't get the name right. But we normally fly on a network. Today we are offline because I had a lot of computer issues moments before starting. So normally online, yeah. David says that would be great. I welcome you. Excellent, yeah, absolutely. If we get over to Canada, that'd be great. Thank you, David. Nicholas says, SAS recently sent away their last 340. Pretty sad to see. Yeah, that is a shame. Good news is ToLiss are bringing the 340 into X-plane, which is great news. I'm really looking forward to that. Absolutely love the 340. I've been a passenger not on the 600, but I have been on the 300, and it was so quiet. It was brilliant. So I would be very happy to get the 340 onto the channel, do some long haul flying in that as well. Right guys, I'm going to take a very short break, and then we're going to get set up for our arrival into Mykonos. So thanks very much for coming along. Short break now, and we'll be back very soon. everyone, welcome back to the stream. So here we are on the flight deck, just check nothing's gone completely haywire while we were out stretching our legs. No, all good. We should see that that cruising level has increased. Nope, still not increasing. I wonder if that will, maybe as the fuel burns a bit longer. You don't tend to change flight level on a flight this short. If it was a bit longer you might consider it, but there we go. About 50 minutes left to go on the flight, guys, maybe a bit less, 45 minutes. Victor Tango says another interesting approach is Vega in the Faroe Islands. I tried it a few times, never got it right. It would be interesting to see an actual pilot doing it properly. Victor Tango, if you go to my previous streams, I should probably organise them better. But anyway, I have been there in one of our streams. We went to the Faroe Islands, and I remember it well because it went completely wrong. We messed up the first approach. We did a go around. We came back round. We tried to do a second approach, but air traffic changed the runway because we were on VATSIM. And then we made an approach on the other end, and yeah, it is a really challenging approach on that end, plus very steep upslope in X-plane. I think it's over exaggerated because it's impossible to land there in X-plane without special scenery. However, I do want to go to the Faroe Islands in Microsoft Flight Simulator and see it again. Absolutely. Geordie, good to see you, Geordie. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming along. Richie Rays or Ricky says, what happens if pilots saw an asteroid? Yeah, I've seen an asteroid. The worst one I've seen was amazing. I was actually looking down. I was in the cruise like this, but nighttime, and huge bright light over the sky. I mean, I caught out the corner of my eyes. I saw all the windows had gone white, and it was really quite alarming. I've never seen it before. I've only seen it once. I've seen lots of little asteroids, so shooting stars we call them, where you see lots of little specks go, which are really nice to see at night. I don't see so much of it on the Airbus. The Airbus has a lot of interior lighting, and this panel down here reflects in these windows really badly, so it's actually not so great for looking out. You'd have to dim down the brightness a lot. But yeah, the one really bright one I saw was amazing. It really lit up everything, and then it had a big green trail behind it, and then everybody was talking about it on the radio. Everyone went to a frequency to chat about it and then compare. Bernard says the airport is missing in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Is that true? Is it missing Faroe Islands? That's a shame. That is a real shame. Aish says, which aircraft has the best physics in Microsoft Flight Simulator? I don't know. I'm guessing it's going to be one of the general aviation aeroplanes. They seem to have worked really hard on those. I'm thinking things like one of the Cubs, one of the Cessnas, because they worked a lot with the people who make Cessna. Is it Textron? I get the name wrong all the time. I can't keep up with all the different aviation related companies that seem to join up all the time. See that moon rising, excellent. So the X-plane has its graphical moments for sure. We can go to a window seat. Haven't done that all flights all day. Yeah, Victor Tango, yeah. If you're just using default X-plane scenery and you try and land, I think it's on the south-facing runway, it's too steep. The runway is too steep up. It's a steep approach and a steep runway. It's almost impossible. Yeah, I think we managed just about, but it's a long stream. That's a shame it's missing in Microsoft. Yeah, that is a shame. Dave Hagan, I'm very well. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Sky 173, remember the days of active camera in FS 2002? What was active camera? I had FS 2002. I don't remember it. I wasn't very good with simulators back then. Not that I'm very good with them now, as we keep seeing. Northern Lights user says, yes, yep, seen the Northern Lights. They're great. Always amazing. Point says, one question I forgot to ask last time. I was wondering, where is the brake button for the brake pads on the 320 NEO, or does it not exist? It's in exactly the same place. 321 NEO brake pads is there. Just again, not every airline will pay for them. So Microsoft Flight Simulator obviously decided they have not paid for it. Right. Let's look up our airports. tab. So Mykonos has a narrow runway, which I can show you now. Alright, let's do our arrival first actually. We're planning to come in via ToLiss. So let's see. Well, that's disappointing. They all have ToLiss arrivals on them. So let's choose one we like. ToLiss is down here. That's straight into the VOR as the overhead. Well, that seems pretty straightforward. Let's do the ToLiss 1 Alpha. What did I select? Oh, we haven't even got a star yet. So normally you don't actually have to change the approach. I can. There we go. Yeah, okay, that one works. ToLiss 1 Alpha. There we go. And that should bring us straight in. And then we're going to go. What is the difference? So this is where the ToLiss is just great. All of these systems work like they do in the aircraft. So you can zoom in and take a good look. So that's going to go through the overheads. Bacon Warrior, £5 donation. Thank you very much, Bacon Warrior. Very helpful on the Discord as always. A big contributor. Thank you very much. And Bacon Warrior says, buy yourself a coffee or put it in a pot for New Year. Your video streams and community have helped me so much to enjoy this hobby. I'm really glad to hear it, Bacon Warrior. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and the stream. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the community on Discord is very happy to have you as a part of them. It's always amazing the support you guys put into helping each other on Discord and on here, so thank you all so much for that as ever, and thank you Bacon Warrior for your contribution, really kind. Right, so what's going to happen if I put in via Mike Kilo number 1? Not a whole lot. That's what I would sort of expect to do. I mean, that's basically the same thing. But what we will do is we'll put in a hold at the Mike Kilo November. Mike Kilo November 088 right hand turns, so 088. I was hoping to make a video on this in Microsoft Flight Simulator because I've done a holding tutorial video in X-Plane months ago, one of my early ones, but people have been asking how to do it in the fly-by-wire mods. Sadly, although it appears to work, or it has the features, it doesn't actually seem to work just yet. There we go, so now we have the hold, then we'll go outbound from the hold onto the procedure. Just jumping into the chat, Dave, could be better. Had some issues in Discord. Oh, okay. That's a shame. Yeah. We'll try and keep things not too political. This is sort of an escape for all of us who just enjoy flying. So hopefully we don't have anything like that here. Yanis says, but anyway, thanks for coming, Dave. I hope you enjoy the stream. Yanis says, on the settings.text, you can set shadows to 4096 instead of 1024. It'll make it look much better. Ah, yes, thank you. I remember there was a fix for that. Let me record what you said there as like a note, because it does look pretty bad today, doesn't it? It didn't used to on my old computer. It seemed to look better. But it has certainly gotten more jagged recently. Eric says, how much does... Anyway, thank you for the tip, Yanis. Thank you. I'll try and get that in for next time. Eric says, how much does extra ice detectors and brake fans actually cost? If you're going to spend hundreds of millions on a plane, is the cost of things like brake fans really that much? It's every penny in every airline will be accounted for, I promise you that. So it doesn't matter if it's 50p. If there's no justification for it, it won't be bought. That's just how airlines work. Every penny counts, because every penny to the customer, depending on what sort of service model you're looking at. But obviously, for example, in economy class, passengers choose based on price a lot of the time. So if you're 50p more, £2 more, £3 more, £20 more, £100 more, people may not book your ticket, and that's the difference between a successful airline and a not so successful airline. So it will always be accounted for. So if it costs money and there's no reason to have it, even if it's a little amount, it won't be bought. However, if there's a justification, like having brake fans, for example, might help you have shorter turnarounds, even in hot or heavy destination flights. So it depends what you want to use your airplane for. There is other things to think about as well when you're buying extras for your airplane. The weight. If I install brake fans and it adds, I don't know, 100 kilograms to the weight of the airplane, or 200 kilograms for the system, all the wiring and so on, and then it adds maintenance costs because they have to be maintained and replaced. How much is that going to be worth it? And then the extra weight is going to burn more fuel. So you'd be amazed that nothing is just added. Yeah, It's not like when you're choosing your own car. Everything is accounted for very carefully, and airlines will often take out things. So say you buy an airplane second hand and it came with brake fans, but none of your other planes have it. Well, you might just take it out and say, well, we don't want it, don't want the weight, we don't need them, none of our other planes have them, things like that. Yeah, it is funny. Okay, so did this one alpha we've got, and then overview on arrival. Well, that doesn't tell us much, we won't bother with that. Mike V, find the quarter stream, huge fan of the channel. That's brilliant. I'm glad you enjoy the content, Mike. Thanks for coming along. I'm a PPL in the US, but haven't flown for a few years. Really missing it. I bet you are missing it. Yeah, I haven't flown private pilot flying in years either, and I do really miss it. So thanks for coming along. Thanks for saying so. I'm glad the channel's been helping you, Mike. Really glad to hear it. Bernard says, I don't think you shouldn't need Navigraph for that sim, but be prepared for your version of the approaches to be different. Yeah, exactly. That's the one big reason for Navigraph, and I like it for these endless charts, but not absolutely required. Although I shouldn't start talking about VATSIM, I nearly always get the wrong information about VATSIM. Next then, sorry guys, I've been sitting on this page. We're going to do, so you can see there's only approaches to 3-4. To land on the other runway we'd have to circle round. We're going to do the VOR Zulu 3-4. VOR Zulu. Zulu the most commonly used. And you'll recognise it, it's got some similar traits to the last one we did. So we're going to be in the hold here, then we're going to eventually head outbound. We're at a Cat C airplane, 129 degrees, out to 6 miles, round the turn, and then intercepting at 6 miles back in, 185 knots around the turn. Well, that's pretty standard for Cat C, that's a standard sort of speed limit. Then we're going to use final approach to descend down the profile. It's a platform altitude of 2,070 feet, really unusual that, 2,070, so I'm just going to put 2,100 in, but there could be some issues with that, and I'll talk about that why in a minute. So first thing we're going to do a non-precision approach. In fact, actually what I am going to do is set up. So flight plan page, come on, fill the page of screens. We know the routine by now. Constraints, so you want constraints on here so we can see what's going on. Flight plan, scroll through. ToLiss, there it is, ToLiss up to Mike Kilo November. That's the VOR into the hold, which we've got tuned. Eventually we're going to leave that hold. We're going to go on the 129, Mike Kilo November 129, out to 6 miles, 6. Then we're going to make a right turn, intercept the 332, and now it says 333. So I want to check that's within, it only needs to be within 3 degrees actually on a VOR style approach. For an RNAV it would need to be within 1 degree. So that's within reason, so 1 degree difference is okay. Limitations on this, we need to be within 5 degrees as we start our descent and all sorts of VOR official style things, because it is still ultimately a VOR approach, but we're not going to fly it purely by tracking the VOR. The VOR is going to be our primary navigation instrument, but we're going to let the airplane use its final approach mode, which just uses the airplane's own position in space to figure it out itself. So we're getting down to 2,100 feet. Then we're going to turn around here. Once the waypoint is, let's get this right, the Mike Kilo November FD34, which I assume is descent point. Then we're going to make sure when that is our 2 waypoint, and by 2 waypoint I mean it's the waypoint here on the screen, I'm going to arm approach, and then the airplane will head down. It should fly a 3 degree glide slope. Now we would always check this in the real airplane. It would say 3.0 somewhere here. It would tell you, sorry, here. It would tell you the vertical profile. So we need to know which one is the first point the airplane wants to descend from. If we skip that out, we could get into all sorts of problems. Sadly, in the ToLiss, this is not modelled at the moment. I think it is in the flight factor, but it's not modelled in ToLiss at the moment, so we can't do that. So we're going to hope that it ties in with the charts, and it looks like it does. 2070 here, 2070 there, and I can see here the airplane is planning to cross this point at 3,400 feet, this point 2070. So that's all looking good. Now this is a approach that is not like last time. We can fly this approach in what's called decelerated, so we can start down from 2,070 feet. We can start down this 3 degree approach, so along here descending, and then we can configure whilst we're descending or slow down or whatever we want to do, because we are going to use final lap, which is going to give us on our PFD, here we go, we're going to effectively get a sort of glide slope here. and it's going to show us like the glide slope on an RNS. So it knows if it's high and it will descend back onto what it wants to be on. So it's certainly something. It is better. The workload is much lower, and we're going to see that it's much lower because if any of you saw the Reggio Calabria stream, it's high workload doing an approach like that. But there are lots of problems with doing an approach like this that you mustn't forget about. The other problem is if our QNH is wrong. So we're on standard at the moment. When we descend, we'll get the QNH, obviously. If that's wrong, we have the same issue as if we were doing it using flight path angle. Even though it looks like a glide slope, you've got a real problem if you're on the wrong QNH, because the airplane will think it's at the right altitude and it won't be. So it might think it's at 1,438 feet, but actually if your QNH is wrong, it would just think that, and you'll actually be too low or too high. So you've got to check a lot of things, a lot of checking when you do an approach like this. You also need to have a plan for if it all goes wrong. So what am I going to do if whilst I'm descending I lose, I don't know, all my GPS or something else, or for some reason it can't fly final lap? Maybe one of those sides loses its position. Well, we're going to have to revert down potentially all the way down to just using the VOR and the needles like we do normally. So to do that, it's worth having a plan. So what I can do is I can go to RadNav. I'm going to fly. Oh yeah, we should have cleared these out. We don't need those anymore. And I'm going to put in the Mike Kilo November. Mike Kilo November. Mike Kilo November. Both of you will probably want it. Inbound course 333. So I'm going to have that ready to go, and then I can just swap over to using that if I need to. So if we lose our navigation accuracy, or we're not happy with how the airplane is flying this VOR approach, I'm going to go to track FPA, and I'm going to set 3 degrees and track the 333 inbound, and I can go to the VOR page on here, and there's my inbound course all set ready for us. So you need to have a backup plan in case it all goes wrong, because you want to have the more basic option available to you. And there we go. Right, there's some sort of a plan anyway. So flight plan page we've looked at, we've checked through. Final thing to do, what if we go around? Because there's a higher chance of that today, no doubt. And why is that? As I said, narrow runway here. So final chart to bring up. Airports. Airports. So you can see they've drawn it I think thin. I believe it's 30 meters. Yeah, width 30 meters. That is the limit for the 321 and the 320 family. We can't land on a narrower runway than that, and even this has separate limitations. So a standard runway is 45 meters wide. This is 30. This is narrower than our wingspan. The wingspan on this is, I think it's about 34, 35 meters. Depends whether you've got sharklets on and so on. So this runway is going to actually be within our wingspan. That's how narrow it is. It means that there's certain things we must have. We need to have a fully functioning airplane. We need that nose wheel steering to be working. We need all our brake systems to be working. There's worse limitations as well. So if it's really windy and the runway is wet or icy or anything, the wind limitations are a bit more narrow. We must have pretty good wind conditions to do this. So certainly something to focus the mind a bit more. Yanis says, if you fly a VOR approach, do you hit the approach push button? Yes, you don't need localizer, and certainly you don't need this. So as you see, it's flashing. If we were to now try and fly the approach and arm it with this up, it would actually flash at us. So it would say VDEV will be flashing here to remind you you don't need it, and it won't work until you turn that off. So do not turn on LS if you're doing it like this, and yeah, approach mode is what we're going to use. I have a full tutorial on it on my channel if you guys need it. Sorry guys, yeah, there we go. Right, past all that weather, looking quite nice out there now. So the go around if we need it. Pretty straightforward. Straight ahead, out to 5 miles, left hand background to hold. Out to 5, MKN 5, background to hold. All in there. Looking good. RadNav. So we tuned the VOR, that's our nav aid, that's all we've got. Progress page, really useful. LGMK. I'm going to put in runway 34. 150 miles away. Excellent. We should have a descent arrow somewhere. There it is. The airplane thinks we'll descend there. Slightly closer to the airport than we'd expect. We'd expect maybe, I don't know, from 37,000 feet. Well, yeah, pretty reasonable. But it knows we're going to fly all the way outbound and inbound, so it lets us descend a bit later to try and keep it high. But we don't want to be high. I don't actually want to be at these altitudes when I fly the approach. I want to be at MKN06, which is this one. We don't really want to be at 3,500 feet, 180 knots. We need to be below 185, so I'll probably try and be a bit lower in vertical speed, maybe a bit slower as well as we come round. By the time we reach this 6 mile point, I want to have flap 2 out, and as soon as we start down, I'm going to put the gear and the rest of the flap out. But like I said, because it's going to follow its own little glide slope, it will actually correct back onto the correct profile when it sees this balloon. Because it will go slightly high as I put the flap out and try and slow down. But that won't be a problem when we're using final lap. Right. So red nav down, progress page. So distance to the threshold, always useful to have a backup of, although these altitudes here, very important. Really important, in fact, any of these approaches is making sure you realise what these altitudes are based on and what your distance to the runway is. So today it's based on the VOR. So at 3 miles we should be 1122. So you can see it's actually pretty good. The VOR's at the airport. Sometimes the VOR is sort of here or out here, and it means you're going to have to account for the difference in distance. And then yeah, we're going to land. Max reverse, flat full landing, and certainly medium auto brake. All of those things are going to be needed. It's only 1900 meters. If I go past the touchdown zone, I'll absolutely be going around. But otherwise, up we go. Narrow runway, so we'll go all the way to the end to do our turn in the little turning circle. Back up Alpha 1. Somewhere to park, hopefully. Seems to be quite a few stands there, more than there were in Reggio Calabria. Great stuff. Right, let's get the latest weather. Back. What's that one? There it is. QNH now 1014. 1014. Temperature 18. Nice. Wow, what a nice day there still, eh? And it's definitely dark in real life there. Variable 3 knots. Sun's going to be 0 north of 3. It's not going to make too much difference. Get config full landing, and if we go around, we're going to climb to 3,500 feet. You might start hearing the cat now. She has decided now is the time to start having a conversation with us. So 3,500 feet. There we go. That is in there for the go rounds. There's something else I needed to do. Very important, and I've totally forgotten what it is. Minima, MDA. Yeah, absolutely. So you'll see here, we're not circling to land. So 1,200 feet. The CDFA reminding us we need to do a continuous descent final approach. The reason it tells us this is because once upon a time you could fly an approach like this by just descending right down to your minimum altitude and then just flying along, but that's never used anymore. It's just not safe or sensible or efficient as doing it this way. So we're at Cat C, RVR requirement 2,400 meters, no problem there, we've got good visibility. Circling to land, obviously east of the runway not authorised. If we were going to circle, we'd have to go round to the west, back round and in. Right, that's pretty much a good place to be. What I can do now, oh yeah, fuel prediction, let's check. We've got lots of extra fuel. Secondary copy of that active plan. Something I can do is, as I said, I think this, I don't want to be as high as this is planning to be. I want to leave the hold at 3,500 feet. So what I can do is I can say, let's get to the MKN hold at 3,500 feet, please. So out constraint 3,500 plus, please work 3,500. So I've got rid of the plus. Now, instead of being above 3.5, it's going to be at 3.5. There we go. So it's moved that top of descent arrow closer to us. So now our managed descent will be a little bit more closer to what I would like to actually do, which is great. So I can let the airplane take the strain. Some good questions in chat about weights. How much weight would you enter in the cargo hold? Yeah, it's going to depend massively. 20 kilograms you could do for each passenger if you want. Not all passengers will have hold baggage on short haul, so you could do half of that You could add more if you're going skiing. Say you're flying to Innsbruck for skiing, you'd have a whole load of skis in the hold, so you'd have more cargo anyway. Most people don't often have that much air. SimBrief, I let SimBrief do an auto sort of cargo calculation if you're using SimBrief. But typically not a high percentage. The cargo holds aren't usually full, even if the airplane is. Yanis L says, do you use landing distance calculated by Airbus FTW? No, I don't have that. No. So of course you would have done a very accurate landing distance calculation before you start any sort of approach into an airport like this. So you would know exactly how much runway you're expecting to use. You'd know where you think you need to stop by. Yeah, that feature just isn't. It's not readily available to a lot of us. Although it sounds like there is one out there. Mr. Espresso, is the hold compulsory? No, it's not entirely. That's a great question. If we were being radar vectored, no. We could be radar vectored out and then establish on the radial out here and then head in and do exactly the same thing. The reason for the hold is to set you up for the approach. So if you were coming in from the east, say, then you'd have to join the hold, because to join a hold, the airplane will fly. There are loads of official ways to join, but there is a way to join a hold from any angle. If we come in from here, we'll come in, join the hold and go around. Same from here. If we're coming in from the east, we'll actually come in, we'll fly that way round, go out, teardrop back round and then join the hold. So joining a hold, you will always find a way to orientate yourself the correct way round. And that way you are set up for the approach, because you can leave here and then head outbound. It's not allowed to have an approach that starts at too strong of an angle compared to the hold. So you couldn't fly in from the west and then go straight outbound if you're flying procedurally. And by procedurally, what I mean is you're following the procedure and you're not being radar vectored. So in our case, I think we would have probably actually I think, assuming we're going to be flying this procedurally, I think we would be required to join the hold. There are loads of numbers on it, so I must admit I may be wrong on that. But I think that's too sharp of an angle, so you couldn't start your approach like that to go. It's called beacon outbound. You've got your beacon that the approach is based on. You go outbound, so you would tell air traffic, Manta 238, beacon outbound as we head out here, beacon inbound as we head in here. Yanis says I should use it. It's great. Okay, yeah, good to know. I don't have I don't know where it's available. And can we keep Formula 1 spoilers out of the chat? I should have said earlier, actually. So, yeah, we try to avoid talking about Formula 1 in the chat. I'm sure there's lots of people trying to enjoy it later, because it's on at all different times. Thanks, guys. Morris says, top of descent isn't given in the fly-by-wire Airbus at the moment. Do you have any tips for calculating this manually, as I often seem to start descending too late? I do, Morris. I have a video on my channel talking about exactly that. It's called When to Descend. It's one of my more recent videos. So if you go to my channel, When to Descend is on there. Right, here's our top of descent marker. Decelerate. Let's do it. As ever, I'll start with flight level 100. I know that's safe. Thrust side open descent. Yeah, VNAV in Microsoft Flight Simulator would be good. Boomer says, hang on, entry sector for base is more than 30 degrees in the procedure. There you go. I think that sounds pretty reasonable. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. It's a legality thing that I don't deal with that sort of regulation in real life, because I fly the procedures as they're published, but the publishing the procedures will be done, or the requirements are done sort of in advance. So yeah. You're very welcome, Morris. Thomas Uchia says, are you excited for the 321 NEO LR and XLR? I am indeed. We have talked about it a bit earlier, and absolutely, yeah. So I'm hoping to get access to those soon enough, and then we can get them onto the channel, and I can show you guys what we're in for with those. Looking forward to that, absolutely. once they get released. It's all coming very soon now, isn't it? Very soon. I didn't realise that, Morris. I didn't realise that was going on. SKW says, presuming you would regularly be checking the weather for any significant changes. Oh, I think I missed a couple of subscriptions. Thanks for your subscription to Kidowitz and to Thomas. Thanks for subscribing. And Mike V. Hope you enjoy this stream. Thanks for coming along. I think Mike was chatting earlier. This is the VOR approach, indeed. We'll be flying the VOR, and hopefully the Airbus does remind us VOR, DME. It should say the runway as well, actually, VOR 34. Anyway. So SKW says, presuming you would regularly be checking weather for any significant changes given the wind importance with this approach. So what distance would you continue before electing to go to alternate? Tricky question. If the weather, if it's just on limits but it's just changing every now and then you can't get in, well then you'd probably carry on. You could carry on all the way down to the approach. If you're here and it's 30 knots and it's impossible to get in for any number of reasons, then it could be that you just you go to the alternate straight away. Yeah, if there's just no chance. It just depends how much. If it's just sitting on the limits and it goes in and out, then you could make your approach. You could join the hold and wait there. Lots of decision making goes into that sort of thing. That's what captains get paid for, absolutely. No worries, Mike V. Thanks for subscribing. David Door's been in the 350 a lot. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the 350. 12-hour A321 XLR stream when? Yeah, exactly. Thanks to Sem for your subscription. And Edwards. David says you'll love the A350. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. Willeng says, I like having your streams on in the background. They're very relaxing. Good, I'm glad. That's what I like to hear. What else have we got? Derek says, being a real life pilot, I'm sure you can answer. Why do pilots never say what airline they fly for? I listened to a podcast as well that some pilots do and they never say. Is it airline regulation? Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. You can't represent... I won't say it because, firstly, privacy. Obviously, an issue on the internet. Also, I don't want to represent a whole workforce of pilots. It's not fair of me to do that. You can't be expected to represent all the pilots at your airline. But if you go onto social media and then you start talking about your airline, then you risk doing that. So that's not really fair. So that's another reason not to do it. So yeah, so there are a few reasons. So it's quite common. It's just one of those things. It's making it clear that the views are all of your own, and so on, which they of course are. Could be slightly more difficult if you also talk about who you work for. This is not a PFD mod. This is the latest fly-by-wire. Not fly-by-wire. This is the latest ToLiss. I do apologize. Latest ToLiss version 1.2, which is coming out soon. Colour is pretty accurate. Yeah, it's pretty good. I like it a lot. They've done a good job. Their old PFD was actually not as accurate, and they updated it to this new one. So they've worked hard on it. I must say, I hadn't really noticed the original one was not that good, but since they updated it, it's become clear that this one is really good. What I will say, guys, is don't get too involved in what the colours look like. You know, that if they're different between sims and so on, it's not actually a big deal, because the reality is the screens can be different, and you've got these square screens, then you've also got the smallest, the round screens, some people call them the cathode ray tube, the old style screens, which are totally different again. So this is a good representation, and I can't say I look at it and go, oh, that's definitely wrong at all, to be honest with you. Sometimes X-Plane as well does fiddle with the colours, so it looks a bit washed out on that screen, but you can fiddle with the reflections in the ToLiss menu actually. It's just a great, you can fiddle with so many things. I really like this display reflections, so I'm not going to fiddle too much because I don't want to break everything, but anyway, you can change this like that. Okay, here we go then. Destination in sight. Look at that sun setting. Let's see if we can get a nice view. Oh, fantastic evening here. Gonna make it down just in time for sunset, hopefully. We're slightly high on profile. Let's go manage descent. And there's Des. But you'll see it still says thrust idle, so yeah, it must be a 350, 380 sort of thing to have a different mode. LDR in flights. Yeah, hopefully this does help you with VOR. And like I say, this is a simple version of a VOR using Final App, but there's still lots of things we have to consider. Yeah, absolutely. And this is a good place to start. And then if you want help doing track FBA, I have that tutorial on my channel as well, one of my older videos in the X-Plane. Voice crack. Did my voice crack? Oh dear. Dr. Edward, if the colour is a bit off, is it even point in buying? Exactly. Reggio says, what is the engine mode selector crank? Great question. You know what? It's so rarely used. So if you set it to crank and then you do manual start, you can get the engine to motor, effectively crank over, used to clear out fuel in the engine, things like that on the ground. I don't know if I've ever used it ever for its purpose, so it's just a way of turning over the engine without having to actually start it or add fuel. Thanks for your subscription to Ahmed. Darian Naho gets it. 320 sim pilot representing with his skills, not his airline business. Well, we'll see about that. So, oh yeah, we're well above 1,000 feet. So regular viewers of the channel know that I can make as many excuses about the landing now. So we have to make excuses so that everyone knows it's not our fault if the landing isn't very smooth. So what are the excuses today? Well, we talked about some of the limitations of a narrow runway. There is another problem, which is it looks different out the window. So you get very used to a certain picture and a certain width of runway. So with a narrow runway, because it is thinner, we're going to think our eyes will deceive us, and we're going to think we're still a bit higher because the runway looks smaller. So our brain will tell us it's further away, so we won't flare. We won't flare in time usually. So you have to be aware that it's easy to flare late on a narrow runway, and that would obviously lead to a slightly firmer landing if you flare a bit late. Of course, the other thing is we don't want to float. We did a bit of a float in Reggio Calabria, and we don't want to do that here. We want to get down. We've got to get down in that touchdown zone and stopped because it is a short runway. So those are a couple of things we will absolutely use as a great excuse for this. Cam A321, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming along. All is well here. We had a bit of a fun start to the stream, but we made it. We made it. 340 would be very cool. Yeah, absolutely. Sky 173. There will be an A340 in X-Plane. It will be a ToLiss product. They've announced it. I don't know which version. I don't know if it's going to be... Does anyone know? Is it going to be a ToLiss 340-600 or just a 340-300? I think the picture they used was a 600, but I don't remember. Okay, it's time we keep our descent going. We're going to begin the approach from Minimum hold altitude 3,500 feet, because we should be looking up our MSAs, so 3,700 feet coming in from this sector. So let's put 3,700 in there. And let the airplane continue its descent. Now we're going down to an altitude. Very important we set the QNH. Not charts. What am I doing? Wrong one. There we go. QNH was 1014. 1014. Now, something that really bugs me about the 320 in Microsoft Flight Simulator, I don't understand why it has QNH, QFE. There's no way to change them up here, and yet every time I try and change between inches and hectopascals in Microsoft Flight Simulator, I end up swapping between QFE as well, and it's just not a thing. I don't understand why they've added it there. There we go. Right, below 10,000 feet now. Something we are going to check. How's our aeroplane's accuracy? Yeah, its accuracy is high. Required 0.3, estimated 0.05. So that means it knows its position within 0.05 nautical miles. It's required to be within 0.3. So it's looking good. Basically, we need it to say high. Accuracy high. Also GPS primary usually for a final approach, start approach. And we do not turn on the LS buttons because we are not going to use them. I will show you, if I remember, what that looks like. Landing lights can come on. Let's get those passengers sat down, ready for the approach. Yeah, Matteo had exactly that issue, the trap of falling into the approach and then flaring too late and then having a hard landing. Yeah, very easily done on narrow runway approaches. Right, soon we'll start to see the island. One of my favourite things. I love flying over the sea low. You only get to do it really when you fly an approach like this one, like a procedural approach, and even then you don't want to be low because you're burning fuel and it's noisy and it's not very efficient. But in terms of pure flying, so I don't try and do it, but if you are flying and you end up having to be a bit low over the water, oh, it's great fun. Really feel like you really get a sense of speed, and yeah, it's good. Richie, yeah, we are in the descent phase. Hello from Russia. Hello to you. We have a few Russians have joined us today, which is great. Yanis says a 330 would be better, but I think there is a 330 out there. ToLiss is 340-600. Excellent, excellent. I'd absolutely love to see that. I'm not sure we had a good quality 340-600 produced for any simulator for a long, long, long time. No, Time Walker, no, we can't dump fuel in the short haul Airbus, only the long haul. Well, Batwell says, do you ever land a completely manual VFR type approach? We can't fly VFR, it's just not allowed with passengers, but we can fly visually. It's different, slightly different thing. Essentially, yeah, we can fly visual approaches. I did a stream into Glasgow where we did a visual approach, I think. Where we set our own references, and you have to, some airports don't allow it, but yeah, you can draw a line on the navigation display. You've got to set yourself lots of different markers, so when will I be at what speed and what altitude and so on. So here we go, we are going to go and join that hold because I want to make sure that we don't, no, you can't quite see it there, it's just a tight turn to head outbound otherwise. Oh, explain loading in some winds there. User says, why isn't ToLiss developing aircraft for Microsoft Flight Simulator? I don't know. I don't know. If you have a failure and need to land after takeoff, you can't make the airplane lighter, says Time Walker. No. You may have to land overweight, but the reason we don't have the ability to dump fuel on these aircraft is because usually you're not that far over your landing weight. Now, it's going to be interesting when we look at the 321 XLRs and so on, because they're going to have a lot of fuel on, a lot more than we're used to. But for us, without those extra tanks, it's not so much of an issue. There we are. There is Mykonos. Looking very nice at night, lit up. See the vehicles. Excellent. So, looking good on the altitude. We're going to join the hold at 3.5. It's going to be there. In fact, we'll be at the hold at 3.5 even as we enter the hold. So we'll be nice and low. Or 3.7 I should say, sorry, 3.7. Yanis says, what's QFE? QFE, so QNH is me setting the pressure setting based on sea level. So we are 4,300 feet above the sea. QFE is specific to the airport, and it means if I set the QFE on here, which you just set it, you don't need to adjust it. But anyway, if I set the QFE, this will tell me my altitude above, or the height, I should say, the height above the airport. So height is above the airport, altitude is above sea level. Geordie, €5 donation. Geordie, that's very kind. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Geordie. Thanks for coming along to the stream again and for supporting the channel, as always, Geordie. Thank you very much. It's very kind. You guys are always incredibly generous, so thank you. Speed out, 3,700 feet. That's fine. And we're now entering the hold. Yeah, thank you, Geordie. And I hope you've enjoyed the stream today. And, well, we've got the best bit to come, as it were, where you can all laugh at me. You can see the approach phase is activated on its own. Very important. We must have that active before we can fly outbound, obviously. So you can see it's going to try and join the hold in its own way here. Carl Cruz, good to see you. Thanks for coming back. Sky Ranger, good to see you as well. Thanks for coming along. LDR in flight says, quick question, your favourite part of a flight? The moment you take off or the moment just before you touch down? That's a tricky one. Everyone enjoys landing, don't they? Because it's such a dynamic thing that can go, some feel like they've gone better, some feel like they've gone worse, and it's something that you spend a lot of time training for. But takeoff is great fun as well, absolutely. I prefer descending to climbing, because if you end up climbing, climbing up to 38,000 feet continuously, it's you just end up staring at the screens and you can't see anything out the windows because you're pointing up at the sky. So it's that can be a little less entertaining, but also descending, obviously you're nearly where you need to be, so that's always nice. Right, approach checklist. Briefing is confirmed. ECAM status is checked. Seatbelts are on. Barrow F is 1014, set on both sides. 1200 Barrow is set, that's the MDA, and engine mode selector is in normal, as it would be. Is that new? That texture looks new. I don't remember it having the marks. That's quite good. The paint wears off all these switches very easily, so that's a nice detail. That's really good, actually. I hadn't noticed that before. So we're going to enter the hold and then we're going to head outbound. So let's bring up our chart for that. Let's see if I can get this right. Matteo Churi, £5. Thank you very much, Matteo. That's very kind of you as well. Thanks for supporting and thanks for all your effort. Matteo is one of our moderators, works very hard on the channel. And another £5 for a little something for the NEO add-on. That's very kind. Thank you. Absolutely. I can't wait to get that onto the channel. And thank you for your support, Matteo. And thank you for your support right from the start. Matteo's been with the channel since we were in the... Well, I can't remember how many subscribers we had when Matteo joined, but it was in the region of tens, maybe a couple of hundred. Corrosive Moon, good to see you. I hope you're doing well, Corrosive. Active member on the Discord as well. Dr. Edward says that's a parallel entry, right? This is a parallel entry indeed. And then you've got offset, direct. These are all the different names. Loads of different names of hold entries. Hold entries is something you learn and do intensely when you're learning to fly instrument flight rules. Thank you for your subscription, Alex Friedman. Thank you for Jamie for subscribing as well. Short runway full power takeoffs are fun. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Nicholas, absolutely, I agree with that. Okay, so let's get ready then. I want to leave this hold this time, so I'm going to go flight plan, immediate exit. Now hopefully it will go MKN and then out to MKN 06. Let's see if that works. 3,500 feet, that's fine, and we're going to head outbound to 6 miles. We've got our VOR here ready to go. Let's get the procedure up. Once we go outbound, we can descend to 2,070. So I'm looking for that two-way point. It should work with immediate exit, but we shall find out very shortly. So I may not be able to answer any questions shortly, guys. I think it looks like it's going to do another hold, actually. Nope, MKN 06, there we go. That's what we wanted. So, 2070, well, as ever, be more cautious, 2,100. I'm going to do it in vertical speed to keep the airplane under control, and now we get this nice blue arrow which works very well in the ToLiss. So I can set that wherever I want it. Let's do 900 feet per minute. Let's do 800 feet per minute. Back at green dot speed, we're below the flap speed, so let's go to flaps 1. Flaps 1 coming out. Thank you. I can't see the name. Thanks for your subscription to TJ Egan. Thank you very much. On our road to 30,000, as everyone likes to say. Road to. Okay, down we go. Oh, we're in the cloud now. Let's hope we get out of that before we need to go visual. You can see now that we've got the bar already appearing. That's because the approach phase is activated. Very important. If this is not activated, so if it still says activate approach phase, you won't get all the right indications. Okay, we need to be 185 knots by this turn. So let's go flaps 2. Speed's checked. Flaps can go to 2. And I'm going to select a speed. I'll do 160 knots for the turn. 800 feet per minute. Thanks for subscribing, Dodo Fishy. Thank you all for coming along tonight. Right. So, if we accidentally leave LS up, this is what you'll see. And it will flash redev. Because if you now try and do an approach mode, it won't work properly.
2,500.
So let's get rid of that. There's the 2,500. Radio altimeter has come alive, so that's really important confirmation that our QNH is correct. So we are the right altitude above sea level for this approach. Incredibly important for doing a non-precision approach. It still counts as a non-precision approach, even though we have this, what looks like a glide slope. But it is not vertical guidance, it is just another way of doing a VOR. Out to star, there we go. Round the turn now. Speed's back at 160. We are flap 2. We're going to put the gear out as we come out the other side of the turn. And what we'll see is this green bar come down to meet us just before this FD34. Getting pretty dark. I was hoping to be here a bit earlier. Mike BR is a $10 US donation. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. That's really generous. And Mike says, new to flight simming, have enjoyed your video tutorials. Keep up the good work. That's great to hear, Mike. Thank you very much. It's brilliant to hear that people enjoy the videos and get use of them. So that's great, and that's very kind of you to support the channel. Thank you very much, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming along for the stream. Bacon Warrior is back just in time for the landing as well. Right, here we go then. Let's put that gear out. Gear down. Manage speeds. Pointing in towards it. The 2 waypoint up here, FD34, is written there, so I'm going to press approach. And we get final blue. That's the vertical mode. It's armed, ready. At nav is green. The navigation is lined up and ready to go. Sorry, it's already active. We're on approach navigation. We're just waiting for the final vertical navigation to come in, and then it will say final app in green when it does. So it should intercept just here, but I had this earlier where it didn't quite. So in the real aircraft, I'd expect it to intercept now. There it is. Fantastic. So it's worked. So final app in green. Now we're starting down. There's no problem to configure because we're using final app. Let's go to flaps 3. And flaps to full. The gear is down, so arm the ground spoilers. Get those lights on. There's the runway 2 rights, 2 reds looking good. You're still going to check your altitude. So at 5 miles on the VOR, 1750. Perfect. 5 mile VOR, 1750. 4 miles, 1438. 1440, close enough. Landing checklist. Cabin is hopefully secured for landing. Auto thrust is in speed mode. Go altitude, we need to set 3,500 feet in here. We can do that now. And eco memo, landing no blue. Landing check is complete. Next check is at 4 miles, 1430. 4 miles, 1430. Or 1440. 3 miles, 1122. But no matter. More importantly now, we need to get ready for the landing. What we will check, and what I should have checked, don't do that now, is the inbound course of the runway 336. Right, let's get ready then. I won't be able to see anything in chat, I do apologise. Autopilot can come off. Flight directors can go off, because we're not going to follow them now. We're going to put it into track FPA and set 336 as the inbound track. Now it's offset, which is very common in VORs. Let's bring up that PFD.
1,000.
We are stable at 1,000 feet. You'll see we still get that little green donut, which does help with the vertical guidance, but crucially, I know it's 3 degrees, so I'm just going to keep flying a 3-degree approach, which means sitting the bottom of this fuselage on this little bird, it's called, on the 5-degree marker. Oh, we're going through a bit there. Wind is from the left, sorry, from the right, so let's not get too distracted here. So we just want to keep that sitting on the 5. Now I meant to talk about this. This is a glitch. You would not get this warning in the real aircraft here because the database will be adjusted, but it's not loaded into the ToLiss because they can't load all of the databases properly. So you would not get that warning. In real life, you can never ignore it. You have to follow it. Here we go then. Don't want to get high. Just need to land.
40, 30, 20, retard.
That's going to be, and let's get reverse out. Match reverse. Ooh, possibly a bit of a bounce. "70 knots, reverses to idle." Wow, really great sound effects. And forward idle, park brakes to manual, and now we're going to roll to the end. Look at that. Yeah, it's quite an upslope on final approach there. No, I'm just seeing your predictions now coming on the chat because there's a slight delay. I'm sure it's going to be quite a high vertical speed. If not, there's 2. I think that was possibly a bit of a bounce. It won't show you the vertical speed actually, guys, because the function that does that isn't working. Now that wasn't on purpose, I promise. But yeah, it's quite an upslope, but you just need to get yourself. You don't want to be wasting time floating on the runway. We'll have a look at the replay. Don't you worry. You can laugh at me there. And here we go, on the ground in Mykonos. Quite an approach. All non-precision. I hope the VOR was useful for you guys. As I said, we'll get down to the end. Still doing 14 knots. It gets really hard, you know, after you've landed. It's really hard to judge the speed on the ground because everything feels slow. So you'll think you're doing sort of 10 knots and you could be doing like 20. Round we go. So you can see how narrow that runway is. I'll jump outside in a second. Okay, we're going to go up and then vacate to the right. Excellent. Really steep runway. On both ends it seems pretty steep, so that is a bit of a problem. Sky Ranger, thank you very much for coming along, and thank you to everyone for coming along to watch the stream. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been yeah, good fun, somewhere different. Next stream coming soon, we'll be looking at I don't know yet, possibly the 321 NEO. I'm hoping that's the plan, if we can get that into a stream soon. There we go. So you can see now that the wingtips are actually over the edge of the runway, although there's this extra tarmac. But yeah, not much room for manoeuvre, so we will go and watch that. I think there could be a bit of a bounce there, a bit of a skip on landing. I do like the lighting effects on the ToLiss, really nice. Right, back on the flight deck. So yeah, so that is, as you can see, when you're actually flying the approach, doing a VOR like that is much lower workload compared to having to set the FPA and configure and so on. Although if you do plan it, you can do, you know, you can get through it. But final lap is a really handy mode, especially when there's 2 of you. Okay, vacating the runway, get rid of those ground spoilers, flaps up. Oh, leave those on, get those landing lights off. Tiny little airport here. Start that APU, and we'll go and have a look at the replay. We do have the replay function working. Sorry, the replay function working. Running out of ways to talk, clearly. Let's take stand 4. Looks good. Parking those in. Turn off all the lights so we don't blind anyone on the ground. You can see we've got a hot brake warning already. Do our best to judge this without a marshaller. I think we need to get those over there, those in, and starting to accelerate. Oh, nose a bit left, and You can't quite see the line. It looks like there's lines here. Sometimes they draw lines so the captain can look out. So for example, if you park against the 1, it'd be something like that. And there we go. Parking brake is set. That APU is now available. So as long as it definitely says avail. Yeah, it does. Let's get the engine shut down. Big 10, the 11. Thanks for the Microsoft Flight Simulator tutorials. Yeah, I'm glad that the descent video was useful for you. Thanks for coming along, Victor, for joining the stream and for saying so. And thank you to everyone for coming along today. Thank you to those who've supported the channel and everyone who's taken the time to come and join us. Sorry about the start of the stream, but hopefully we won't have that again. I'll make sure it's sorted for next time. And I hope you enjoyed the flight today. As I said, soon, ToLiss A321 NEO. I would have that on the channel soon. That's my plan. I'm very excited about that. And we'll go and find something fun to do with that. Maybe we'll take it a bit further. Oh yeah, engines are spooled down, beacon off. Right then. For now, it's time to jump into the replay. So here we are on final approach. Just jumping into the chat to see what questions I might have missed. I know I've missed a few, so apologies for that. Wedding, thanks for flight gonna go. Yeah, everyone, thanks for coming along, and I'll see you again in another stream soon. Golden, thanks for the flight. Done the same in the NEO mod. Could not select auto brake max. Yeah, no, auto brake max doesn't work on the. You can't use it for landing, just low or medium. Matteo, have to dash for dinner. Got line training in LFMN, Nice, I believe. Already sweating. No, enjoy that, Matteo. Matteo's joining BA Virtual. So yeah, enjoy that, Matteo. Thanks for coming along. Mr. Espresso, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the video. Alexander as well. And Insanity Flea, yeah. Thank you guys. Here you go. So amazing how that wind, because I got distracted and started joining in the chat again on, or talking about other things on final. Just let it get blown through. So that is, it shows you how quickly it can go wrong on the final approach. And as I said, we got that GPWS warning. It wouldn't happen. It's because the airplane's confused and the database is corrected for all these destinations. But your airline will have it sorted out for each destination that you actually fly to. Right, runway. There should only be one runway here. Let's go and get a view. I don't think this is going to be a particularly pretty landing. Let's have a look. Somewhere here. Let's try that. Okay, let's have a look, guys. So we'll do this, then we'll do our passenger view as always. How many mods do you have? I don't have too many. They're mostly listed in the description. So the ToLiss is obviously a payware mod, as it were. I've got a Lua script for the water. I think that's about it. Here we go then. That's still quite a high sync rate. Into the flare, into the flare. Bit of a bounce, bit of a skip. There it goes. And down. Excellent. Rolling out, max reverse. Get the thing stopped. If you bounce and you realise you're going to land a big bounce, that wasn't too big. If it's a big bounce, so you're significantly back up in the air, then you need to just go around, because you can't guarantee it's going to work out on the second landing. Crucially, in any bounce, if the second landing won't be within the touchdown zone, then you're going to have to go around. But luckily, that one was. So yeah, there you go. Down we are. Right, go back out to our passenger view. And I'll set it up for the ending. Richie, good luck. Enjoy it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Mike V, thanks for coming along. There we go. So VORs are often offset, of course, because the VOR can't be in line with the runway usually. Right, let's jump into a passenger seat. That's a nice sunset view, I think, for the landing. And I will say, guys, thank you so much for coming along. Chart video, says Todd. Okay, charts, I'll take a note. Yeah, that has come up before, actually. So I will definitely see what I can do for that. Cam A321, thanks for coming along. Good to see you here. And everybody else, too many names to mention, but thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed the flight, and we'll see you again in another stream soon. ToLiss 321 NEO, as I said, that's the plan. Otherwise, Microsoft Flight Simulator group flight, more Microsoft Flight Simulator, and hopefully X-Plane tutorials on the channel or videos on the channel soon. Otherwise, thanks very much. Keep safe and well. See you in a video soon, and bye-bye. Thank you.